There are all kinds of retro compilations being released for consoles these days, but a lot of them tend to go unnoticed because they're not the big ones. One such release that's not one of the big ones is the VISCO Collection, celebrating a company I've never heard of until just now. VISCO Corporation is a Japanese company that currently makes slot machines. However, from 1982 to 2001, they made video games. Lots of games, in fact. They partnered with several other companies in Japan, like Taito for example, mainly on arcade releases. However, they did dabble in consoles a bit with some work on the NES, the Mega Drive, Neo Geo, and some others. The VISCO Collection, which released digitally in late October 2023 on Xbox, PC, Switch, and PlayStation, just slipped right past me, but it's definitely the kind of thing I like to check out. It includes 7 games from the VISCO library representing a number of different genres. Now, I'm unfamiliar with all of these games, but that's part of the fun sometimes. It's a whole package of retro surprises. So let's see what's good. First up is Andro Dunos from 1992, which upon first glance of the name I figured it was surely going to be some European racing game featuring some dude named Andro Dunos. Thankfully, no, this is a shooter that was made for the Neo Geo. In fact, all the games in this collection are going to be Neo Geo releases in one form or another. My immediate first impression is that it's not the best shooter I've ever played. Level design feels very similar to other games like Gradius and R-Type. You have 4 weapon add-ons that you level up as you progress, and 4 different weapon configurations to cycle through. The game encourages you to use the rapid fire button, but your weapon also features a charged power-up. So if you stick exclusively to the rapid fire, you'll never use it. And you'll probably need to use it in boss battles especially, because even though your shots seem to register damage, it takes a ton of regular shots to defeat one. The thing is though, I never once felt powerful. I know you've got to level everything up to the max, but getting a couple of power-ups here and there never feels like progress. Common enemies still seem like they take several shots to eliminate, and while you're focusing on just one of them, the screen has filled up with others. Anyway, it's okay, but not my favorite shooter. I'm not sure I'll come back to it, except maybe to clean up the achievements. Luckily, we're pivoting into some real treats here. Next up is a game called Bang Bead, which based on the character introductions in the Attract mode, I figured was going to be a fighting game. Nope. This 2000 arcade release is in fact Pong. Yep, Pong. Pong with some Warlords elements and characters you can make taunt one another, but Pong. You're trying to smash all 7 stars on your opponent's side to remove a barrier, and then if the ball passes through where the barrier once was, you win the round. Win twice and you win the match. The playfield seems kind of small for the action, and it will take some time to get used to the movement, especially if you're used to Pong or Warlords, where you're only able to move in a narrow area, but I really dig this. I could see this being a big hit for an afternoon with friends, and then 6 months later one of you says, hey, remember that insane Pong game? And then you fire it up and do it all again. Speaking of playing with friends, 6 out of the 7 games in this collection feature online play, and while I wasn't able to find anyone online in any of the lobbies, not surprising, you can search by usernames, so if you've got a friend who wants to play as well, you can do that. It's pretty neat. I wasn't expecting that from this release. I can't speak to if it actually works or not, but... The next game is 1999's Captain Tomaday. A tomato falls in some goo in a professor's house, and so you're expecting a cutesy platformer, but nope, it's a shooter. You play as that tomato, who now has Rayman-esque detached arms as weapons, and you shoot tin cans, peanuts, babies. At one point, you turn into a baby. Later, a monkey. It's one of the goofiest things and also kind of delightful. I really enjoyed my first experience with it and I can't wait to play more. Each new enemy brought such dumb joy. A wave of killer light bulbs? Okay, sure, why not? You can hold down each of the buttons to rapid fire both of your hands, or just one, which will charge up a super attack on the other. The latter will come in handy when you're fighting boss characters like this cauldron. You can juggle up power-ups and bonus points similar to games like Twinbee, and I'm starting to sense a theme here, which is that these games, no matter their quality, are all strongly reminding me of something else. I believe this particular genre of shooter has been branded Cute 'em up, but I won't be calling it that. I'm a fan of having options and context in these kinds of collections, and there are things you'd expect here like screen size adjustments and on-screen filters, but there are a few odd options as well. For example, you can set a filter to only be able to scroll through and see certain genres. There are only 7 games in this collection. This feature is not saving anyone any time. Same goes for the ability to designate games as favorites and only scroll through those. There are 7 games. That's it. How much time do you possibly need to save? Another odd addition is the historical timeline display in each game's description. All 7 games have a graphic showing the history of the title, and they're all the exact same thing. A starting point when the arcade machine was released, and an end point when this compilation was released. There's nothing in between for any of the games. It's a very weird bit of extra information. Playing through the games in this collection alphabetically, which is how they're presented, will cause a bit of confusion when you get to Flipshot, since Bang Bead is the sequel to Flipshot. Playing them in reverse order makes Flipshot, which came out in 1998, seem like a weird prototype, a proof of concept to get Bang Bead fully funded. The roster is smaller, the action is a little slower, there are only 6 symbols to clear instead of 7, and once they're gone, you win. You don't also have to knock the ball through the other side on your opponent's playfield. So I'm sure it's a fine game, but being exposed to Bang Bead first just makes me want to play Bang Bead and not this. The gameplay there is just better all around. If you're exploring this collection for the first time though, skip past Bang Bead and play this first and just see how that treats you. Also, the game's title screen seems to indicate the game's actual name is Battle Flipshot. It's not like that would have helped the alphabetical problem, but upon starting Gan Ryu, you're presented with a story that very much feels like this is a sequel to a game that hasn't been included in this collection. It's actually based on Japanese lore and is kind of a continuation of that. So if you're not up on your Japanese lore, that's the deal. It's a side-scrolling ninja massacre game. You've got a main weapon and a bonus one, and you can jump and hang off ledges, all the usual stuff. You've even got a bit of a bionic commando ability that only seems to get you killed, but hey, at least it's an option. I particularly enjoyed being able to just hang off a ledge while enemies just cluelessly wandered past. Difficulty-wise, it seems more challenging than most in this collection, but part of my initial difficulty with the game is that the Neo Geo button layout isn't being properly ported over to these new systems. The game uses Neo Geo's A, B, and C buttons, but with the Xbox controller, for example, A and B are mapped to A and B, but C is mapped all the way back on X, and that's very confusing for my brain. Ideally, these 3 buttons should just be A, B, and C. The placement of the buttons is what's important here, not the consistency with the naming. I'm not looking down at the buttons when I'm playing, I know where they are by feel. Not only was this both a home and arcade Neo Geo release, but it also came out on Neo Geo CD. I'm not sure what differences there are between the CD version and the others, and I'm not sure which one this is, although I'll wager it's just the regular arcade version. Goal, Goal, Goal is a soccer game, as you might expect. Despite playing years of soccer as a child, I really don't follow the sport, so it's hard for me to judge how good a soccer game is. It's arcadey, it moves fast, you can seemingly tackle whoever has the ball and never get a penalty, and if you haven't scored more goals than the other team in about 3 minutes, the game ends. That seems like a poor value for your quarter. Unless you just have specific nostalgia for this particular soccer game, I doubt you'll play it more than once or twice, but I'm still glad it's included. All games should be preserved, even sports games. Neo DriftOut New Technology is a hell of a name for this arcade rally racer from 1996. Controlling your car takes a little getting used to at first, not much though. And once you're familiar with the track, you should be able to move on to the next stage without too much problem. It's fine, it's totally fine, it's just that there were a lot of these around this time, and they all tend to blend together. And if I want to play a racing game like this, I'm probably going to go back and play RC Pro-Am. The Neo Geo is another weird gap in my gaming history, so it's cool to get the chance to play these. However, as far as a recommendation for the VISCO Collection goes, getting it on sale like I did seems like a no-brainer. For $10, it was worth it to experience all of these for the first time. But full price at $20, that might depend on your history with the Neo Geo and if you have a particular love for some of the games in this collection. The usual bells and whistles are here, and online play is nice if it works, but ultimately it's going to be a toss-up as to whether or not you need to add this to your digital library.